Even when we know that everything we have and everything we are comes from God, even when we know that we were created to walk with Him and to serve Him for His purposes and for His glory, it's so easy to be deceived into believing that it's actually all about us. Throughout history, God's people time and time again have taken what God has given them, which is everything, and used it for their own glory, to achieve their own purposes, to do their own will. And I hope as I'm saying this that you're nodding your head and confessing, Lord, how often I've done that. Maybe you're recognizing that you're doing that in your life right now. The Bible continually uses the stories of the kings of Israel to give us a window into our own hearts. We've seen the ugliness of pride and its results in the life of Saul and in parts of the life of King David. And today we're going to see it in the lives of three more kings, beginning with King Solomon. And it's so ironic that it was Solomon himself who wrote in Proverbs 16 verse 18 that pride comes before destruction. In chapter 10 of our reading today, Solomon gets a visit from the Queen of Sheba, who came to hear his wisdom and admire all of his wealth. And not only her, but it says all the earth was coming to hear his wisdom and to admire his great wealth, because it was clear that God had made him greater than all the kings of the earth. But this humble young king, who once understood very clearly how much he needed the wisdom of God, got caught up in his own success and decided he could do things his own way. He took wives, many of them from the foreign nations around them, which he had been warned about, which Israel had been warned about. And in chapter 11 it says that they turned his heart away from the Lord, and that Solomon began to worship other gods and to build altars to them. How could he do that after God had given him everything? Or maybe the better question is, how is it that we so often take the gifts and the abilities and the opportunities that God has given us and we use it to serve ourselves rather than to serve Him? So the Lord appears to Solomon and He tells him, because of your disobedience, the kingdom is going to be torn from you and your family. And from that day on, enemies began to come against Solomon, and there was no longer peace in his kingdom. Then the Lord sends a prophet to Jeroboam, and he tells him that the kingdom of Israel is going to be divided, and that Jeroboam will be the king of the 10 northern tribes. And he makes him the same promise that he had made Solomon, that if he will walk in God's ways, the Lord will be with Jeroboam as He was with David, and that Jeroboam's descendants will sit on the throne and rule in Israel. But even though the Lord promised him everything, in chapter 12 we see Jeroboam turning his heart from the Lord already. He doubles the idolatry of Israel in the wilderness. He makes 2 golden calves for them to worship. And so the Lord sends him another prophet and says, you and your family are going to be cut off from Israel. Meanwhile, Solomon dies, and his son Rehoboam becomes the king over Judah. But his foolish pride immediately leads to this division of the kingdom that God had said was going to happen. And then, like father, like son, it says in 2 Chronicles 12 that when his kingdom became strong, Rehoboam became proud and he turned away from the Lord. And the last word on his life, a really sad commentary about someone's life, is that he did evil in the sight of the Lord because he refused to set his heart to seek the Lord. Pride tells you that you are the king and that this world is your kingdom. But pride is deceptive, and pride always goes before destruction. Let's learn from the temporary kings of the past and take everything that we have and everything that we are, all of our abilities, all of our resources, all of our plans, all of our relationships, all of our dreams, all of it, and lay it at the feet of the one and only true King. And then let's live in the joy and the freedom that comes when we simply acknowledge Him for who He is and trust Him to be God.